Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming and a new Diablo 4 build video. Today I'm back with a new minion build tied to the new fun unique of Season 1, which is Lidless Wall. This provides us with a pile of bonestorms, one around our own character, one around the Golem, and many around the fight thanks to the unique itself. This is spreading Shadowblight, crit, builds up for Barber, and bursts when the Golem slams. At the current stage of Season 1, I've made builds for most Necromancer concepts now, including minions, except that was actually the obviously broken Bone Prison burst version, so now it's time for a full minion build using Golem for the fun of it, a more legitimate build. How is full minions in Season 1 though? We're going to cover that. On that note, if you want to improve your Diablo experience with an easy way to track and follow builds, Mobalytics, today's sponsor, is a fantastic resource for exactly that. An application I've been using on and off for years for a variety of games, and it's now here in Diablo 4. It's a very easy way to follow meta builds and maximize your gameplay. Mobalytics is a completely free companion app designed to make your experience smoother in your game of choice, as a straightforward way to check builds, find guides, consider tier lists, and more. Best of all, for Diablo 4, it can be easily accessed mid-game in just a moment through the in-game overlay. You just press tab plus Q and that will push the overlay out on the left, letting you find a suitable build or guide to follow along while still in game and moving and playing. It's a very efficient way to say, when leveling, pull out the overlay and just check your guide and what to level next without really any interruption. Or check the main app itself to check extra details where there's space for the creators to explain how the build works, advise you on the gameplay loop, and even link to full video guides should you need them. All of the builds can be filtered by class and are constantly updated according to current meta. The app has a fully functional interactive Paragon board that you can follow along and move yourself to check the details of. And recently introduced, we have a full functional build planner to create and share your very own builds. The class specializations, the equipment and aspects you're running, you can go through the skill tree yourself, and again with the Paragon board as much as you want. So give the app a try. It's completely free to download. Just follow the link in the description of the video so they know we sent you. A big thank you again to Mobalytics for sponsoring the channel, but now let's get back to the video. In this build in particular, can you use anything but the Barbar? Well, yes, you can use this one, the Great Feast. It pushes the power of your minions directly in exchange for essence, and that would work with this build since we're not using a core. But the problem is, Barbar just has the highest output. There's no question about it, just like every class in Season 1. Through this build then, we can land big bursts of damage. You'll often see pops of 5 to 10 million almost randomly, and you'll slam with the Golem and crunch whatever it hits. Thanks to the super high lucky hit we have in this build, the resetting of that Golem slam is so consistent that you can press it every few seconds, leading to stuns, vulnerability, and bursts of damage. In a boss fight, you can even get more out of it as you spam corpse explosions so much there's essentially no cooldown on that slam. It's very funny. So the build can be very fun, but I'm also not going to mislead you here. Full minion builds that work in the Golem, it's just weaker than running just skeletons with a shadow focus, which is much more efficient and effective. A full minion build requires more Paragon points than other builds to reach a point of function. It's extremely demanding. Like at level 83 on this Necromancer, I don't have enough points. At 90 I'd be nearer to the point, but even then I'd want more. So I still find it really stupid, poorly designed, and a big part of why full minion builds are still struggling compared to the many other builds we do. Full minion builds are also very demanding on your skill slots. You ideally would want 8 or 9 skill slots, and of course we only have 6. We can squeeze more out of them now thanks to the new Decrepify Aura Heart, which allows us to run Decrepify the aura without actually having it on the skill bar, but I'm still crying and begging for more benefits from minion builds in the skill tree, so you don't need as much from the Paragon for it to even get functioning. The DPS of the build can also be a bit inconsistent. It's very potent when it works, when it hits, when the Barbers burst, when the Golem's smashing, and when you've got big crits built up from Shadowblight and otherwise. So it works and it's fun. It is minions as it should be, but it's still kind of a self-inflicted challenge due to the awkward nature of minion control in Diablo 4, because you don't have any. You just slam with the Golem occasionally on a target, because we don't have enough skill slots since minions take up 2 and don't provide enough individually. Heaven forbid on a minion build, if you actually die, you're going to have your Golem back, but all your skeletons are gone and you have to work back to having a pile of them to actually be able to properly fight again. They removed that stupid mechanic from world bosses specifically in Season 1, but wouldn't it be nice if they just put that in the game for all content? So positives and negatives explained, let's get into the build. Alright, we will begin with the skill tree as always. Now, we are not using a basic, so this is an awkward 2 points needed to be spent to get to the next tree. Then you're going to need enough points to actually get to the further tree, so we have to put a point into an enhancement in some way. So whatever you want, 3 points in the basic, and then 3 points in Hued Flesh. That will then get us to the next tree, where we get what actually matters. A point into Blood Mist, an enhancement, and then into Ghastly means we have a consistent way to spawn corpses, which means even if it goes wrong or your minions are dying during a fight, you're spawning so many corpses, you're getting them back quickly. Of course, we're taking Skeletal Warrior Mastery to improve their damage and life. 5 out of 5 on the Corpse Explosion. This is a shadow damage Shadowblight build, so we want as much out of this as possible. We'll enhance it and go for Blighted to turn it into shadow damage for that point. While we're here, 1 point into Grim Harvest does not matter, but it gets us to Fueled by Death. As we consume all these corpses, we're going to very regularly have this big damage increase. On the next tree, we have 1 point into Decrepify, enhanced and abhorrent Decrepify for the resetting thanks to Lucky Hit for our cooldowns. As we apply the curse, we are also going to want Amplify Damage to improve our damage to cursed targets, and we want 3 out of 3 into Skeletal Mage Mastery for more life and damage on the mages. We have just 1 point into Death's Embrace. This is because we have 1 point left over in the build, so it's a nice place to put it because it's going to give us slightly less damage to close enemies and improve our damage to close enemies as well. It'd be nice to have 3 out of 3 on that, but we just can't afford it because the skill tree is so demanding for this build. On the next stage then, we have 1 level in Corpse Tendrils, enhanced and going into Plagued for the vulnerable spreading, of course. Then for our passives, we have 1 level into Reaper's Pursuit, giving us movement speed on Darkness, and then the all-important Gloom and Terror to improve our damage and our minion damage via shadow damage. This helps when enemies are slowed or hard stunned, or just in general for Darkness skills. I will highlight Necrotic Carapace, which can be a good way to add survivability into the build, and to get it into this build, I would probably drop the 3 levels in Terror, losing the damage for that survivability, which could be important if you're pushing higher tiers. Then we come to the ultimate tree. Of course, we want Bonestorm for a big part of this build, so we enhance that and go all the way to Supreme. We 3 out of 3 Golem Mastery to improve its damage and life, 1 point into Inspiring Leader to get us to Hellbent Commander, which we max out, and 1 point into Bonded Essence for the healing of that, and 3 points into Death's Defense to prevent our minions from not only ever being one-shot, but only ever taking 30% of their health. This keeps them alive, especially in the higher stages of content. Our last point in the tree is into Shadowblight then for the key passive, making our shadow damage so effective. When it comes to the Book of the Dead then, we have Reapers on upgrade 2 as always. This is helping us generate more corpses, keeping Corpse Explosions, Corpse Tendrils, and Summoning going. For the Skeletal Mages, it's of course Shadow on upgrade 2. This gives them that extra shadow attack, so we're spreading more Shadowblight and generating more damage. Finally, for the Golems, we're an Iron Golem upgrade 2 for the Slam that's generating the vulnerability and the CC, which is great. So now we're at the Paragon boards, and this one's a complicated one because, as I've mentioned in the intro, WoW minion builds demand so much from your Paragon. I do not have enough points to get everything I want. We're missing a load of things. I'm going to explain it as we go, so I want you to understand that what I've done here is sacrificed things that I want just so I can get further to show you what to do on the 5th board, what the plan is there in-game, but I'll explain as I go. From the top then, on the starter board, we're going to come around to the right to pick up Prime, work our way up to our first node, which I have Dead Razor in. Dead Razor is one of the most important glyphs you can get for a minion build. Whenever your minions deal damage to an enemy, it takes stacking damage 12% times 10 seconds, so it's just a major way to improve your minion damage. However, I want to highlight that Dead Razor should be on this second slot because of its main effect, get an extra bonus to minion damage and damage reduction modifiers. So again, it should be here because that's where those things actually are, so it would benefit from them. But I don't have level 15 Dead Razor, so I put it into the first board and put Control there. So basically, if you have a level 15 Dead Razor, you swap it where Control is, swap these around. Either way, we make sure we get the secondary effect of this going, and we work our way onto the next board, which is, of course, Cult Leader, the most important Paragon board for a full minion build. This is going to improve your minion's damage by 15% times for each minion type active. So when you've got the Warrior, the Mage, and the Golem, it's scaling the damage massively. So you definitely want that. The board also has loads of perks and benefits from minion builds in general. We work our way to the right, picking up Custody for the damage reduction from minions, and the magic nodes around it for further benefits there. Coming to the glyph, where again I have Control for intelligence at 40 for the secondary effect. Very easy to get on this board, and again, you'd rather have Dead Razor here at level 15 on Dead Razor, and Control in the starter board. We'll come left and around to go pick up Puppeteer for the damage that gives to our minions, as well as attack speed. If I had more points, I'd also be picking up the magic nodes here. Then we'll work our way up. If I had more points, I'd also come up and pick up Infused Caster and some of the magic nodes here for that benefit, but then we'll work our way up to the left and make sure we get Cult Leader. Back to the glyph, we'll work our way to the right and up to our next board, which is the Hulking Monstrosity board. Hulking Monstrosity gives our golem way more health and way more damage, so it's absolutely required if you are running a golem. We work our way onto the board and down, picking up Borrowed Strength, all the magic nodes around it if I had more points. We'll work our way to the right and up and around to pick up Hulking Monstrosity. From there, we work our way to the right to pick up the glyph, where I have Territorial. This is really efficient for a dex glyph because we can min-max the points and get through this board very quickly. We'd also pick up the magic nodes to improve the golem damage if I had more points. On the way out of the board then, we work our way down and we would come to the right to pick up Frenzy Golem and all the magic nodes around it. Again, if you had more points, let's say you're level 100. Working our way down to the next board extension, we have Flesh Eater. We're consuming corpses so consistently that this is next to always up in a fight, so it's a major damage increase pretty much permanently, so we absolutely want that too. We rotate the board so it's close to us as we enter and work our way down and around to Stifle, where again, I'd also like this magic node if I had more points. Working our way down and to the left, we'll also pick up Flesh Eater itself, then work our way down and come over to the glyph, where we have Exploit, improving our vulnerable damage, of which will be spreading from our golem slams and corpse tendrils constantly. It requires 25 dex, so it's another one that's pretty easy to get efficiently, but I would like to pick up Targeted and more dex here to improve this perk if I had more points. From there, we will leave the board to the right to extend into our final board, which is Scent of Death, another really important board because it's a massive damage reduction. When there are at least 2 corpses nearby, which is next to always, it's a big damage reduction. So another one that I consider absolutely required. For the sake of this video, I have given up so many rare nodes and magic nodes that I've highlighted as we've gone, just so I can make it to this board to show you where you want to aim. So we'll enter this board and come straight to the right and then veer down to go pick up Scent of Death because it's so important. Then we'll come to the right and up where we'll pick up a glyph socket with darkness in it. Darkness's secondary effect means when you or your minions deal shadow damage to an enemy, it stacks up reducing damage of that enemy up to 10%. So it's a very good damage reduction glyph in this build. I don't have enough points to get this active, but you want to get 25 willpower, which is easily doable on this board even without this being level 15, so that's why it fits so well there. With the remaining Paragon points that I'm missing, I would flesh out everything, going and getting the various rare nodes that I've highlighted on the way and buffing them out with the magic nodes that I would like to have around them that I've been unable to afford with my points so that we can get to the 5th board. And again, this is a big part of the problem with minion builds. They're so unbelievably demanding on Paragon points that it's not until like level 90 plus that you really get to a happy state, which is ridiculous. I'd also like to highlight the Undaunted glyph. If you want more damage reduction, I would work this into the build and drop one of the glyphs that's actually providing damage if you're pushing tier 100s, which is kind of the main end game of the game at this point. Moving on from that, it's time for us to talk gear. We'll start with the hearts. As you should expect, we're running the Barber heart in whatever piece you'd like to fit it in. And in our rings, we have 1 Vicious Heart, 1 Brutal. In Vicious, of course, Sacrilegious to get the auto trigger of summoning our actual skeletons, of Corpse Tendrils, and Corpse Explosion. Ideally, you'll get a roll that's as minimal reducing damage as possible. For the final ring, it is, of course, the Brutal Heart, the Decrepify Aura Heart. Ideally, you'll have the one that's permanently active when there's 0 enemies near you, so it doesn't matter how long it lasts. Now let's go through the actual gear and the aspects we're running. As you should expect, on the helmet we are running either the Skeletal Warriors or Mage Increase option, and on the boots we're running the other one that you don't have on your helmet. So +2 to Mages, +2 to your Warriors. You want both of those on your gear, and I have them on my helmet and boots. When it comes to the chest piece then, we have Shielding Storm. We are going to generate so much shield from our bonestorm on ourselves, on our golem, and from the Lidless Wall, spreading many more around us. So this is a great survivability aspect for sure. On the gloves, we have Decay. Each time the Shadowblight key passive damages enemies, it's going to increase the next Shadowblight's damage within 10 seconds by a massive amount, and that stacks 5 times, so a big offensive DPS aspect. We fit it onto our gloves there. On the legs, as always, it's Disobedience, just a great defensive. As I've said, on the boots, increasing the mages. For the weapon, we have on our wand, Blighted at a max roll, which is very important, increasing the damage for 6 seconds after the Shadowblight key passive actually damages an enemy 10 times. On the amulet, as always, it is Grasping Veins. This is going to give us the crit chance we need to actually regularly be triggering Barber in a build like this, as well as the massive DPS increase it provides. For the ring, ring, it's obviously the Ring of Mendel. As always, you need this for most minion builds in existence. Based on lucky hit, causing your minions to smash targets and leading to big burst, especially combined with Barber. On the other ring, we have Ultimate Shadow as a way to turn our bonestorms into shadow or darkness damage to spread our Shadowblight key passive through the many bonestorms we're spreading, which is obviously key to this build. On the offhand, obviously it's Lidless Wall, the unique that's generating more bonestorms. If you do not have this unique shield, or you prefer to run the build slightly more offensively, then I would recommend you run an offhand, like a focus that comes with cooldown reduction, and we can get lucky hit on that. And in that case, I'd slot in either Decay and work in Osseous Scale onto the gloves, or just put Osseous Scale onto the offhand itself. This would extend how long the bonestorms last, which is only a good thing. Alright, when it comes to the stuff that's actually on our gear, it's super important then that you get lucky hit as a top priority on everything. This is to help trigger the proc of the Ring of Mendel, but also reset your bonestorm and blood mist constantly, as well as the actual Golem slam, which is constant too. So we can get lucky hit on a lot of things. You can get it on your rings, you can get it on your amulet and your helmet in the form of lucky hit chance while you have a barrier, as you can see there. You can get it on your gloves, so you want it there. With the weapon, you specifically want a wand because then it comes with inherent lucky hit chance. So that's your priority, lucky hit and as much as you can get. When it comes to the amulet, you can run either say Hellbent Commander to improve the damage when near your minions, or you could run something like Gloom to improve the shadow damage itself as a whole. Either one would work. For the rest of the stats on your gear, for offensive benefits, you're looking for crit chance and crit damage as always, as well as improving your vulnerable damage. You can also improve your shadow damage and shadow damage over time. And for a defensive option, damage reduction from enemies that are actually affected by shadow damage over time, that can be great too. Other than that, cooldown reduction can be helpful, but for the main defensives, you're looking for the standard stuff of raw damage reduction, armor, and health as the main ones. Damage reduction from close and fire enemies are also going to be good, and like I said, damage reduction from those currently affected by shadow damage over time is very helpful, as well as improving your max minion life if you can get that too. When it comes to gems, of course, it's the usual. We're going to increase our health, our max health in the armor slots, and we're going to increase our critical strike damage to vulnerable targets on the one weapon slot. In conclusion then, you can with this build generate so much CC from your constant corpse tendriling, your constant golem slamming, which not only stuns but spreads vulnerability and smashes a target all at once, that controlling a fight is actually incredibly effective in this build. So there are absolutely perks to running a full minion golem build like this, but yeah, the output by comparison is inconsistent compared to most other builds. There's more to manage in this type of build and never enough to actually do it, like be that the Paragon points, the skill tree stuff, or the skill slots that you want to run, all of them struggle. The issues for this build back in pre-season remain almost exactly the same in Season 1. We just have hearts now. And honestly, that sums up Season 1 Diablo 4 in many ways, doesn't it? Remember though, as I've said throughout this video, you can swap this build around a lot. You can go more offensive, or more likely, way more defensive. And since I do think the focus at this point in the Season 1 is tier 100s, I think survivability would be a main focus, so going harder on the glyphs for defensives, and your gear in general, is probably worth doing. But I hope this video was useful and interesting either way. For now though, I've been Hollow, you've been you. Thank you for watching, I'll see you next time.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.